Hey guys, Jared here, and hopefully you all are having an awesome holiday break. Today I'm going to be showing you how to implement in-app purchases inside of your application. So today I'm going to be showing you how to do everything, meaning we're going to be going over how to do consumable purchases, renewable purchases, and non-renewable purchases. So let's go ahead and jump right into it. Alright, so the first thing you need to do, if you haven't already, you want to go ahead and sign up for a developer.apple.com account, as well as an iTunes Connect account, which should be just connected with that developer account. It is a free sign up, but if you want to deploy your application, that's when you have to pay. But you can totally test your application for free if you want to. So the next thing we need to do in order to implement in-app purchases is actually have an app. So let's go ahead, open up Xcode. This will be a single view application. Go ahead and click next. For a product name, I'm just going to go ahead and call mine $dollar bills, y'all. And if you have a team, then you want to make sure that's properly set up inside of Xcode as well. That way we can work with bundle identifiers and such properly. Then we have our organization name or organization identifier, and you want to make sure that you have com.archetype. Otherwise, especially with in-app purchases, things can get mixed up and it doesn't work as well as it should. So we're just going to go ahead and make sure that it's com.archetype. Then for our language, Swift, devices, universal, go ahead, click next, and create. And then now before we actually get into the nitty-gritty of implementing in-app purchases, we're going to go ahead and create an interface. So with that, I'm just going to go over here to the main.storyboard. And inside of the main.storyboard, what I'm going to do is add 3 buttons and some text. So I'm going to go ahead, click and drag 3 buttons on there. I'm not here to teach you how to make your application look good, so this is going to look terrible and pretty plain overall. So I'm going to make sure that I have 3 buttons, and there we have it. And then now I'm just going to go ahead and position these all properly on the scene. And now that we have all of our screen elements set up properly, we're going to go ahead and open up the assistant editor and connect each of these buttons to a certain action inside of our viewcontroller.swift. So let's go ahead and do so. I'm going to go ahead and right click and drag from all of these buttons over to my viewcontroller.swift connection type. I'm going to switch that to an action and give it the name of whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and call this consumable 1 to fit the name of the button. And I'm going to do this exact same process with all of the buttons. And there we have it. Now we have all of the buttons set up. Now we also need to work with the label. So I'm going to go ahead and right click and drag from this label over here. This will be an outlet, and I'm going to go ahead and call this my money label. And then go ahead and connect that. Now another thing we need to do is have a variable that's keeping track of the amount of money that we are buying. So I'm going to go ahead and say var money colon, and then I'm going to set this equal to an integer value. And now with this money, this is exactly what we're going to be changing. So basically my thinking here is with a consumable 1, when someone purchases that, it's going to increase that money by a certain amount, say 10. Then for consumable 2, when they pay, say, $5 versus $1 for consumable 1, they get, say, 100. Something like that. And that's the way that a lot of companies work. And then now that we have our interface all set up, let's go ahead and jump into our developer.apple.com account and make sure that we have our product ID all set up as well. So we're going to go ahead, go over here to Safari, head over here to developer.apple.com, and you're just going to go ahead and log into your account. Then once you're in here, you're going to go into your certificates, IDs, and profiles. Go down here to your app IDs, and this is where you're going to be working with some of the app IDs that you have created. Now inside of your app IDs right here, we want to go ahead and create a new app ID for the project that we just created. So I'm going to go ahead and say add. We're going to go to the name here and make sure that we have the same name. For your explicit app ID, this is going to be the exact same app ID that we created with this. So com.archetype.$bills, y'all. And then we're going to go ahead and paste that right in there. And then once we're done with that, we'd go down here to our app services. And as you can see, in-app purchase is already check marked for you. So we can go ahead and click continue, and we should be good to go. Now go ahead and register that and say done. Now that we have our app ID all registered, let's go ahead and jump into iTunes Connect, where we actually create these in-app purchases. So I'm going to go in here, say itunesconnect.apple.com, head over here to My Apps, and we're going to go ahead and create the plus button, new app. This is going to be the platform iOS. If you were using Mac, then that's what you would choose when you're adding a new application. Platform iOS. With your name here, you want to make sure this is pretty unique. It's not something that has been used before. So just try and get that as unique as possible. And I think we're good. So now we go down here to the primary language. We go down here to English, US. Then down here inside of your bundle ID, you should be able to see that dollar bills, y'all, com.architect. Why did I choose that name? For your SKU number right here, this is just going to be really whatever you want. I'm going to go ahead and say 0.0.dollar. And that's going to be my SKU number. You can really choose that to be whatever you want. Just make sure it's unique. Then down here, limit user access. I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and say create, and we should be good to go. And as you can see, it took me right into here, and our application is created. Now, the next thing we need to do is go over here to features, go to in-app purchases, and we're going to go ahead and add an in-app purchase. In-app purchase that you want to create, I'm going to go ahead and say consumable, and we're going to go ahead and create it. Now, this consumable is essentially I'm buying $10 that I'm going to be using in my game. Now, there's also non-consumable, which will be you buy it once and you're done. That could be eliminating ads out of your game for $2 or something like that. That would be used in that circumstance. And then you have a renewable subscription in which it automatically renews. This would be comparable to a magazine subscription or something like that. Now, once you have that renewable purchase, you want to go ahead and create a reference name, a product ID, and basically fill out the price and such. So with our reference name here, this is going to be $10. So we're going to be getting $10 when we purchase this. Then we go down here to our product ID, and this is very important to remember. Your product ID is not the same thing as your reference name. Your product ID needs to conform with that of your bundle ID. So your product ID will start off with com.architect.dollar, and then now you want to go ahead and say dot and then add on the reference name. That is how I learned how to do it, and it works perfectly. For your pricing down here, you can go ahead and set this to whatever you want, all the way up to $1,000. So you can do that if you feel like it, but you also have US dollar 99 cents. So that's where we're going to be setting it right there. Not too sure why there's two US 99 as well as like that happens for a few of them. That's weird, but that works. So now that we have US dollar 99 cents, then we go down here to our localizations. You're going to have your display name and your description. So this is what's actually going to be shown to people when you do purchase this. So your display name can be $10. Is it dollars? I think it's dollars. So your display name is going to be $10, and then your description of this can be whatever you want. You are buying $10 essentially. And then down here, you need some review information. This is really when you're distributing your app amongst other people. So you don't really need this until you're actually getting it reviewed. So then you would submit a screenshot of your iPhone and then add some review notes about what exactly they're purchasing. And that should be good. Now let's go ahead and say save. So we're getting missing metadata, so I do believe that we need to add the review information. So we're going to go ahead and add in the screenshot and some review notes. So this is what I'm using as my screenshot that I'm going to be using as my review notes. Essentially, this is just a screenshot of my iPhone. Now we can go back over here, choose the file of that screenshot, and we should be able to just click on that, and it should just upload that perfectly. And now that we have that done, go ahead, hit save, and we shouldn't have it so it's missing metadata anymore, and it should say ready to submit. Now with submitting, you do not need to do this to test your application, but again, if you're wanting to distribute your application, this needs to be reviewed by a few people, so you want to make sure that your review notes are not gibberish like I have it, and you want to make sure that the screenshot does represent what you are selling. And you can add some more in-app purchases if you want as well. I'm going to go ahead and add a non-consumable one. This one, I'm just going to go ahead and call this like remove ads. And then also make sure that you have the product ID and everything else set up. I'm going to set the tier price of this one to $3. And now that we have all these set up with consumable and non-consumable, you can add renewing subscriptions, and I will be setting up the code accordingly with your renewing subscription, so it's very simple. But I will not be specifically implementing it inside of our application right now. That's because when I was setting up renewing subscriptions, it kept saying missing metadata, and I'm not too sure what I'm doing wrong there. I've been looking on the internet trying to figure that out, but I'm not able to find it out. So We're just going to go ahead and do consumable and non-consumable. But again, we are setting it up so that if you are using renewable, it should work perfectly fine. All right, and now that we have all of that set up, it's off to the races with lots of coding. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, before we actually get started in programming everything, I just want to begin this by saying StoreKit sucks. So what we're going to be using is a third-party framework that just makes life a whole lot easier with StoreKit. It just makes things a lot simpler, cleaner, and overall better. I know some of you don't like CocoaPods, but in my mind it makes life a lot easier, so I'm going to be using it. So I'm going to go ahead and say ls to see where I am inside of terminal, cd desktop, and then we're going to say cd and then go into your project file name. And then now that we're inside of our Xcode project here, I'm just going to go ahead and say pod init. So that's going to put a pod file inside of there, and then we're going to edit that pod file with the CocoaPod project that we're wanting to put inside of there. And then now that we have pod init, you should be able to see inside of your project files right here that we have a pod file. So you're just going to go ahead and double click on that. And then now inside of our pod file right here, you have pods for $$ bills, y'all. We're just going to go ahead, delete that line right there. And this is where we're going to be adding the line where we add our prod files inside of our project. So what we're going to do is go ahead and add the specific pod file that I want. So this is called pod Swifty store kit. So I'm just going to go ahead and put that right in there. So pod Swifty store kit. Again, the link will be in the description down below for it. This just makes things a lot easier again. And then once you have that implemented, you're just going to go ahead and hit Command S to save that, then exit out of it. ls to see where you're at, make sure you're in the right file, and then just say pod install. And it's going to install that Swifty store kit pod into your project. Again, that project that we're implementing is very lightweight, so it's not going to hinder your application's performance in any major way. It's just going to make your code a lot cleaner, and I like it, okay? And now as you can see, installing Swifty store kit, and you should be able to see that pod installation is complete. So what we're going to do is close out of terminal, go over here to your project files, and now you're going to work with everything inside of your XC workspace. And now here is my project. So this is the new Xcode workspace of my project. Now with this, it says convert to current Swift syntax. I'm going to say later. This is because it's already up to date with the latest Swift syntax. There's just something wrong with it identifying it that way. So I'm going to go ahead and say later. Then we go down here to our pods, and you should be able to see in here we have Swifty store kit framework. So with this, what we're going to do is go over here to our build settings, and we just type in what we're searching for, and this is called use legacy Swift language version. As you can see, it says unspecified. You're just going to go ahead and switch that over to no. This is using the latest Swift version, so you should be good to go. And if we hit build, there shouldn't be any errors going on inside of our project anymore. But now what we do have is down here inside of our pods, we have Swifty store kit. So you can see exactly the code that they use here if you want to make any changes to it. But this is all the code that was written for Swifty store kit. So now we can use this to our advantage and make it really simple and easy inside of our viewcontroller.swift file. Let's go over here to our viewcontroller.swift and start setting things up. Now in here, the first thing that we need to get this all working is what is called a shared secret. So essentially what this is, it's a secret code that works with your in-app purchases specifically. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and say var, and as you can see, I am making this a public variable. That way, if you have purchases on a different screen, you can use it there, but it really doesn't matter. Then we can say var shared secret will be equal to open quote, close quote, and then we go back over here to developer.apple.com, iTunes Connect, and in here you can see that we have in-app purchases, view shared secret. So we're going to go ahead and view that, and it's going to generate this shared secret for us. I'm going to go ahead and copy that, say done. I now have that shared secret, and I'm going to put it right in there. And now that we have this shared secret, one thing I forgot to do is go up here to your import, and we're going to go ahead and import our Swifty store kit, as well as we're going to import our store kit in general. Now the next thing we need to do is I need an easy way to organize all of my product identifiers. So what we're going to be using is some enums. So I'm going to say enum, and then we're going to have a name and a case. So with this, I'm going to go ahead and say my registered purchase, like so. That is going to be the name of my enum, and then I'm going to go ahead and say colon, and then this will be a string. So we're going to be expecting a string with every case. And then down here inside of our cases, I'm going to go ahead and say case. This will be my $10 colon, and then this is going to be a string. So I'm going to go ahead and set this equal to $10. And this should actually be an equal sign. And I was making the mistake of you can't have a number starting off thing, so you need to have it like $10 if you want to do that. That'll work perfectly fine, but you can't start off with a number, so that was a mistake of mine. Then down here we also want to create another case, and of course this is going to be my remove ads. And then we're going to go ahead and set this equal to, and this is going to be the identifier that references my remove ads. So get that reference name, make sure it's the same at the end of your product identifier, and just go ahead and paste that right in there. Now, the next thing we need to do in order to get all of this working is make sure that we have a network connection. So the way that we do this is pretty simple. We're just going to go ahead and create a new class, and this will be my network activity indicator manager. So I'm going to say activity indicator manager. And then for our class right here, you're just going to go ahead and give this the class of an NS object. And we are all good to go. Now down here, I'm going to go ahead and create a private static variable. So I'm going to say private static var, and then this will be my loading count. So essentially what this loading count number is going to do is it's going to be adding numbers if the network connection is good, and it's going to be decreasing numbers if the network connection is bad. And it's just going to work off of that. How is the network connection doing? And we're going to make a purchase based on that network connection. So we're going to go ahead and say private static var loading count will be equal to, and I'm going to say this is equal to 0. Then after this, I'm going to go ahead and say class func, and then this is going to be my network operation started. So this is, of course, when a network operation starts, and then just say open curly bracket, close curly bracket. And then inside of here, what I'm going to say is if loading count is equal to 0, then we're going to go ahead and run this stuff in here. And then after this if statement, we're also going to add loading count plus equals 1. So that means our network operation started, so we're going to start adding numbers onto that. And we're going to test our network connection. Now inside of this if statement here, what we're going to do is say UI application dot shared dot is network activity indicator visible, and we'll set that equal to true. And that's it for that function. Now we need to add another function, so when our network operation is finished, then we're going to do this other stuff. So one thing to make clear here is with this UI is network activity indicator visible, we'll set that equal to true. That is that a little spirally thing that you see in the top left corner anytime you're like loading a network thing. That's what that is about. Now after this, we also want it so when our network is done, then we're going to stop it. So we're going to add another function that does the exact opposite of that. So I'm going to go ahead and call this my class func, and then this is going to be my network operation finished. So when our network operation is finished, what we want to do is first reset that loading count back to 0, and then we also want to take away that indicator. So I'm going to say if my, so what I'm going to do to start this off is say if my loading count is greater than 0, then we're going to go ahead and remove numbers from it. So I'm going to say loading count minus equals 1. So we're just going to take away 1 from that loading count every time. Then after this, we also want to say if my loading count is equal to 0. So after all the network operation has finished, we're just going to go ahead and now finally take away that network identifier. And we can go ahead and say open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and we're just going to go ahead and say UI application dot shared dot is network activity indicator visible will be equal to false. And now finally, we're just going to go ahead and start implementing purchases and all these alerts and everything so that we can see that purchases are happening and such. Now we're going to go down here and create a few variables now so that we don't have to re-enter them over and over again. And one of those variables is our app bundle identifier. So we're just going to go ahead and say let my bundle ID equal, and we're going to go ahead and set this equal to my com.archetype. You know how it is. And there we have our bundle ID set up. Now the next thing I need to do is actually set up my purchases with that bundle identifier properly. And the way that I'm going to do this is, as you can see, we created this enum up here earlier. So I'm going to go ahead and go down here and create a couple new variables as well. So I'm going to call this my $10 will be equal to my registered purchase dot, and then this is just going to be $10. Then we go down here, I'm going to say var my remove ads, and I'm going to be using the same variable names as it doesn't affect anything. So I'm going to say var remove ads will be equal to my registered purchase dot, and then this is going to be remove ads. And again, these were just things that we'd have to re-enter over and over again, so that just makes life a little bit simpler. Now, the next thing we need to do is go down here underneath our functions, and we're going to create a few functions. So the first one of these functions is we're going to get info. So we're going to get the information coming from each of these purchases. So we're going to say func get info, open parentheses, and in this, we're just going to go ahead and call this purchase, colon, and then we want our registered purchase, and then open curly bracket, close curly bracket. So when we call this function, we want to make sure that we have a registered purchase to go along with it. And then down here, we can go ahead and say, okay, a network activity has started. So this is where this is coming in, where we have network operation started, and we can go ahead and reference that now. So I'm going to say network activity indicator manager dot, and then I'm going to go ahead and grab that network operation started. So a network operation has started, and we're going to start running an operation. So I'm going to go ahead and say Swifty store kit. This is where this is coming in, and it's very helpful and handy. Dot to retrieve products info, and we're going to go ahead and retrieve some product information. Now, as you can see inside of this retrieve products info function, it's expecting a product ID. That is, of course, going to be the product ID of that purchase that you're trying to make. So with this one, if we go over here to InApp purchases, we want to grab this one up here, com.archetype, and then $10. You want to make sure that this is the same product ID, but to make this the most expendable, what we're doing here is we just want to go ahead and grab that bundle ID. So we're grabbing our bundle ID, and then we're going to add, and then a period, and then we're going to add one more thing, and this is going to be our purchase dot raw value. So this is this purchase that we're making up here. And actually we should add brackets around these, so just make sure that you have bracket and a bracket around that as well. So we have bundle ID plus period plus and then purchase.raw value. So when we're running through this purchase, it grabs that raw value, which will of course be either $10 or remove ads, depending on what the purchase you're making is. Then for our completion here, you're just going to go ahead and say open curly bracket, close curly bracket for now, and say result in. So this is the result that's happened when we retrieved that product's information. And then once you're done with this result in right here, we're going to be doing something later on in this video. There's a lot of programming to go. We're just going to leave this blank for now. This is where you would normally add an alert, and that's what we're going to be doing later on. So let's continue on. And now we're going to create a new function that will purchase the product. So we're going to go ahead and say func purchase, open bracket, close bracket. We're going to go ahead and add in the purchase. Every one of these functions that you're creating is going to have that purchase, colon, registered purchase, and then just go ahead and say open curly bracket, close curly bracket, like so. Now the first thing we're going to do in here is say our network operation has started. So copy that, paste that, like so. Then after this we say Swifty store kit dot purchase product, and we're going to get this one that says product ID and completion. Now for our product ID in here, we're just going to go ahead and get the innards of this one right up here. So we're going to get the bundle ID plus the period plus the purchase.value. We don't grab the brackets. That's the only thing that's different. Then we go down here to our completion and say open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and then we have a result coming in. So we're going to say result in. Now once we do this, we want to go ahead and cancel the network operations that are going on. So we're going to go ahead and say network activity indicator manager dot network operation finished. We're going to do that. So this is upon completion, of course. And I also forgot to do that up here. So I want to go ahead, copy that, and paste that inside of my get info as well. This is going to be the same thing for all of these functions that are going on. Now we'll be adding more alerts and stuff inside of that purchase one as well, but that's pretty much all you need to do for that for the time being. Now the next function that we're going to be adding is a restore purchase function. So this is just going to restore all the purchases, so there's no specific registered purchase that we need to register. So what we're going to do is just create a new function, and we're just going to say this is restore purchases, purchases, open close parentheses, open curly closing bracket, and then we just go ahead and inside of here we're going to go ahead and start our network operation. Then down here we say Swifty store kit dot restore purchases, and then with this one you want to make sure that you have the atomically and completion. So with the atomically, you're going to go ahead and set that equal to true, and then for our completion I'm going to say open curly bracket, close curly bracket, And inside of here, we're just going to go ahead and stop those network operations. And that's all we're going to be doing in this one. We're just getting this set up so that we can get this properly prepared for when we have all of our alerts set up. Now, after this, we also want to have a verify receipt. So I'm going to say func verify receipt. And then this one's open close parentheses, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then inside of here, you start the network operation. And then you go ahead and say Swifty store kit dot verify receipt. And this is going to be this one down here that has the password, session, and completion. So with our password here, this is going to be that password that we created earlier. So that's that shared secret. So you want to make sure that your password is your shared secret. And then for our session, we're just going to go ahead and delete that one. And then we're going to say open curly bracket, close curly bracket, like so. And it looks like what I did up here with these restore purchases, I forgot to put the result in, so I'm just going to go ahead and type that in there as well. You want to make sure that you have result in for each of these things going on. Then we want to go ahead and create another function, and this is going to be called verify purchase. So I'm going to say func verify purchase, open close parentheses, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then inside of here, we start our network operation. And also, I forgot to put up here with our verify receipt, we want to make sure that is network operation has finished. So you want to go ahead and cancel that. Then down here, we want to say Swifty store kit. Now with our verify purchase, this is the only one that like really breaks away from the norm. As you see, we have verify receipt. It matches up with verify receipt. But then again, down here, you have verify receipt again. And you want to make sure that you have the password, and we can delete the session, and then we have a completion. So with our password, again, this is just going to be my shared secret. So put that in there, and our completion, we're going to say open curly bracket, then we're going to go ahead and say result in, and then just paste that right in there. That says network operation finished. Then lastly, for our last function other than alerts, we're going to go ahead and say func refresh receipt. And then open close parentheses, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then inside of here we say Swifty store kit dot refresh receipt, and then we have completion, open curly bracket, close curly bracket, we have result in. And then after this, we need an alert. So now let's go ahead and start creating some alerts. We did it. Okay, so now we've done that. We now have our verify purchase. We have everything done. Now we need to go ahead and create a bunch of alerts to show exactly what's going on to the user. So in order to do this, I'm going to create an extension to a view controller. So I'm going to say extension view controller. Then this is going to be open curly bracket, close curly bracket, like so. Then we have down here a few functions. So the first function that we have in here is just the simple alert with title. So we have func alert with title. Now we say open curly bracket, this will be a title string, like so, then comma, message, colon, string, and that's it. So we just have a title and a message. This is the simple alert with title. Then after this, you just want to say it's going to be expecting a UI alert controller. So you're going to say arrow UI alert controller, like so. Then open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then inside of here, what you say is let my alert equal a UI alert controller, open parentheses, and this will be the title, message, and preferred style. So with my title here, I'm just going to go ahead and set this equal to the title that I have provided it. The message will be the message that I have provided it. And for the preferred style, I'm just going to go ahead and say dot alert. Just a very simple alert going on the screen. Then after this, we just say alert.addAction, and we're going to add a UI alert action. So just type that in, UI alert action. Open parentheses, we have the title, style, and handler. So for the title of this, I'm just going to go ahead and say OK. The style will be .cancel. It's just going to cancel the message once it comes on. And then the handler will be equal to nil. We're not going to do anything when this happens. It's just going to cancel out of that alert. Then we say enter, and we're good to go. Now after this, you can see that it's expecting a return value of that UI alert view controller. So we're just going to go ahead and put that right in there. So we're just saying return our alert. Now that we have that done, we can go ahead and create another alert. So this is a function that shows alert. So with this one, we just say func show alert, open parentheses, and in this one, we're just going to say alert colon, and then this will be expecting a UI alert controller, like so, then open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then inside of this, we just say guard, let, and then we create a variable, but the variable really doesn't matter. So we're going to say this is equal to myself.presented view controller. So essentially what a guard is let things run normal unless something happens. So in this case, we say guard let self.presented view controller just be itself, else this happens. And in this case, this is just saying self.present, and then we're going to present a view controller in which this is going to be our alert. Animated will be equal to true, and our completion will be equal to nil, like so. Then after this, we just say return, and we are all good to go. So we have set up that let things run normal unless we want to present something. That's just how it is. And then now we go down here to our function, and we're going to create an alert for product retrieval info. So this is going to be that alert that pairs up with this get info. And this is going to be the function called alert for product retrieval info. So just go ahead and type that in. Then inside of here, we say open parentheses, and then we're going to put in result colon, and then this is going to be my retrieve results. So essentially what this is doing here is we have the alert for product retrieval info, which actually pairs up with this get info right here. So what we're going to be doing is, as you can see, we have result in created for each of these. So down here inside of our alert right here, we're going to be providing it with the result coming from our retrieval. And then now we're going to display that information to the user. Then in here, we go through the various things that happened. So with our result, if the result was fine, then we do this. If the result came back empty-handed, then we do this, meaning that we have an error inside of the result that they were trying to grab. So the way we do this is we have basically just a bunch of if statements. So we say if let our product equal my result dot retrieved products dot first. Now we say the first product because this retrieved products is actually going to be used later on when we want to retrieve all of the products. That's how that would work, but we're just grabbing that one product, so that's why we say first. So we say dot first, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then inside of here we say let my price string equal my product dot localized price. So this is the price that's coming from our iTunes Connect account right here. So this is going to be 99 cents or $2.99. It's going to grab that price depending on what you put inside of your iTunes Connect. Then after this price string, just go ahead and say localized price, exclamation point to unwrap that value so that we don't have it as optional, then $2.99. That just makes it work. And then after this, we just say return an alert with title. And then we're going to return that alert with title. Our title will be equal to our product.localized title. And then for our message here, this is going to be showing the price as well as what they are buying. So if you go over here to our in-app purchases again, you can see that they're going to buy $10. You are buying $10 and then dash, and then it's just going to show the price essentially. So I'm going to go down here to my message. I'm going to say open close quote slash open close parentheses, and inside of here we're going to get our product dot localized description. Then after this we just say dash, and then you get that price string. That's just how it's formally laid out for people. So we say dash and then the price string. So this is just going to be my price string. Now, what if we get an invalid product? Well, this is where a lot of your writing comes into this as well. If you want to say custom messages to them, I'm going to go pretty much the generic way. So we're just going to say else if let invalid product ID equal, and then I'm going to set this equal to my result dot invalid product IDs dot first. So it's just going to grab, okay, you provided us a wrong product ID, so we're going to give you an error of some sort. So I'm going to say dot first, open curly bracket, close curly bracket, like so. Then we go ahead and return with the alert with title, and this is, of course, is just going to be like could not retrieve product info. And then our message here is just going to be invalid product identifier, : colon, and then you just say slash open close parentheses, and then you just want to, this is mainly for the developer, so invalid product identifier, then you just go ahead and put in the invalid product ID that was given to us. Again, this is mainly for the developer because you would want to make sure that you have everything set up before you deploy your application. But this also lets the person know that there is something wrong with our code that we need to fix. So it's good to have it public for you as well as the person using your application. Then after this, there's only one more circumstance in which there's an unknown error. So we just go ahead and say else, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then we say let error string equal, and this will be my result dot error dot localized description. So we're just getting the description of the error that just happened. Then we say question mark, and then after this, I'm just going to put something such as unknown error, please contact support. Then with this, we just go ahead and say return, and we're going to go ahead and return an alert with title. And then for our title here, I'm just going to say could not retrieve product info. So I'm going to copy that right up there. And then for our message here, we're going to let the people know that they need to contact support in order for this to get working again. So I'm just going to put an error string like so. And this is essentially the fail-safe. Nothing else works, so this is what we're giving you, contact support. And now we are all done with the product retrieval info. Now we need to get into the alert for the purchase result. So with this one, we're just going to go ahead and say func alert for purchase result. And inside of here, we're going to say open parentheses. We're going to get the result colon, and then this of course is going to be expecting a purchase result. So when we call that function, we're going to be expecting a result to be put in there. Then of course we want it to be expecting a UI alert controller, then open curly bracket, close curly bracket. So to get started off with our alert for purchase result, there's a few cases that can happen. You have success, you have an error, and inside of that, you have also a few other things that can happen. So with this, we want to go ahead and get started. What happens if there's success? So in the case that our result has success, then we're going to do this. So we're going to say case.success, and as you can see, this is already done for us. So you say .success. For our product in here, what we do is just go ahead and delete everything that's in there and just say let product, like so. And then now we say colon, and we should be able to start adding stuff into this case. This one we want to go ahead and return. Ignore any of the errors that are going on right now. We're going to go ahead and fix all of it in just a second. But what we're going to do is let us know that our purchase has happened. So I'm going to just say purchase successful. And then I'm going to say colon, and then I'm going to get that product ID. So we're going to get the product ID in which that purchase has had success with. Then after this, we just say return. I'm going to go ahead and say alert with title, and we're going to say thank you for giving me $1 or something. And then we go down here to the menu, and the message, and we just say purchase completed. Then after this, we had that return value, so now we need another case, say that there was an error or not. So we're going to say case, in the case that there is an error, I'm going to say .error. And then inside of here for our error that we are creating, we just want to say let error because we want to create a new variable with that. And we should be good to go now. Just go ahead and put colon, and then after this, inside of our case, we're going to have a few circumstances. So we're going to be displaying an error depending on what exactly happened. So what I'm going to do first is print out that our purchase has failed. And then after this purchase failed, I'm just going to say slash open close parentheses, and we're going to be putting in the error that has occurred. Then we also want to have a switch case down here. So I'm going to say switch value, and then we have a few cases that go on in this as well. So with our value, we of course have our error. So we're going to be testing our cases depending on that error that is being created. So we go down here to our cases, .failed, okay, it's failed. Then we're going to have that error. So we're just going to go ahead in here and say let error, create a new error. And inside of the code here, we're just going to go ahead and say if error, and what we're going to do with this error is convert it over to an NS error. So I'm going to say if error as an NS error, and then dot, and then we just want to go ahead and get the domain of that is equal to that sk error domain. Then we're going to do this stuff in here. So if there's something wrong with the domain of our SK error, that means that essentially their internet connection is wrong and they need to try it again. So with this value, in this case with return, we're going to go ahead and return an UI alert view again. So this is going to be alert with title. And then this is going to be the title purchase failed. This is going to be the title for all of them. And then for our message here, I'm going to go ahead and set this as check your internet connection or try again later. And we are all good to go with that. So go ahead and close all of that off. Then outside of this if statement, I'm going to go ahead and put else, open, close, curly bracket. And then inside of this, we're going to go ahead and return an alert with title. This is, of course, going to be purchase failed. And then with this, we have the message. So with the message here, I'm just going to say unknown error, please contact support. So we're just going to go ahead and copy that. Paste that right down there. Unknown error, please contact support. Now, there's also a few other cases that happen when we have an error other than it just failed. So in order to test that, we can also go down here to our cases. We say case dot, and then this is going to be invalid product ID, like so. So case dot invalid product ID. And then for our product ID here, just go ahead and create a variable as we've done in the past. Then after this, you just say colon. And then inside of here, we're just going to go ahead and return some alert. So we're going to say alert with title. And in this case, it's going to just say title. We're going to go ahead and put this as purchase failed. And then for our message here, I'm going to give them the product identifier and just say this product identifier is not valid. Then we also have the other case that there is no product identifier in there. So we just go ahead and say product not found. So this is just going to be case dot no product identifier colon, and then inside of here we're going to return the value of an alert with title. And then for a title, you just go ahead and say purchase failed. And then for a message, I'm just going to go ahead and say product not found. And then finally, with the cases in this one especially, it's just case dot, and then this is going to be payment not allowed. So this is essentially meaning you're not allowed to make payments on this application, so you need to go ahead and enable that. So case payment not allowed, colon, then we're going to go ahead and put in here the return value of the alert with title. I'm just going to go ahead and put in purchase failed. And then for a message here, we're going to go ahead and say, you are not allowed to make payments. So there's my message. You are not allowed to make payments if your payment is not allowed. That's just how it works. And for the last thing right here, we have a default. Just go ahead and delete that. And now we are finally done with that function. So just cleaning that up a little bit, we are done with that function. Now the next thing we need to do is create another function called alert for restore purchases. Now before we continue on with creating a lot more of these alerts that are going on, let's go ahead and implement these alerts that we have created into the functions that we created earlier. So with our getInfo function right here, let's go ahead and get into this. And we're going to say self.showAlert, and we're going to be showing the alert of self.alert for product retrieval info right here. And then with the result, and we're just going to go ahead and put in the result. As you can see, we're creating all these functions down there so that we can really easily do it later. I know it's a time-consuming process to do all of this, but it really does pay off in the end. Now inside of our purchase, we also have created an alert for this, so we can also work with this one as well. So what we're going to do now is say if case.success, open parentheses, close parentheses, and we say let product, and we're going to set this equal to my result. Then we're going to do the stuff in here. So I'm going to say if my lowercase product, this one that we created right up here, product dot needs finish transaction. Then we go ahead and finish that transaction, and we say Swifty store kit dot finish transaction. And then with our transaction, you just say product dot transaction. If there is a transaction that needs to be finished, then we go ahead and finish that first. Then we also say self dot show alert, and we're going to be showing the alert self dot alert for purchase result, like so. And then we have our purchase result, so that's just going to be, let's put in the result that we are getting back from that bundle ID that we created earlier. Now down here, now we need to go ahead and create another function, and this is going to be alert for restore purchases. So let's go ahead and say func alert for restore purchases. Then inside of here, we want to have the result colon, and then this is going to be a restore results. Then, of course, this is going to be an alert view controller, so UI alert controller. Then open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then with this one, we would just want to go ahead and say if my results dot restored products dot count is greater than 0, then we're just going to go ahead and do this stuff in here. So the first thing we want to test is whether or not this product retrieval actually brought back any products, or if it brought back failed products. If it brought back products, we want to make sure that they're not failed products, and that's where this comes in. So we say if my result dot restore failed products is greater than 0, meaning that we have brought back a failed product and that's an issue. So we say open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and what we want to do is print out what failed product that is. So we're just going to go ahead and put in our restore failed colon slash open close parentheses, and we're just going to say our result dot, and then we're going to grab our restore failed products. So we're going to grab whatever failed product was brought in. Oh, and this is result dot restore failed products dot count. So just to make sure that's like that. Then after this, we want to go ahead and show another alert. So I'm going to say return alert with title again, and then we have our title. So what this title is going to say is our restore failed, and then we have a message that says unknown error, please contact support. They brought back failed purchases. We don't know what's happening, so contact us and we'll get you help. That's essentially what that's talking about. Then we also want to say else if our result dot restore products dot count is greater than 0, then we're going to go ahead and do the stuff in here. And in this case, that means our purchases were restored. So what this means is we need to go ahead and say return alert with title, and we're going to go ahead and return the alert with title. Our purchases are restored, huzzah. And then for our messages, we can go ahead and say all purchases have been restored, carry on with your day. Then lastly, this is I haven't bought anything. So we need to go ahead and say else if this happens, that just means you haven't bought anything, hun, so you need to do something. So we're going to say return alert with title, and in this case it's going to say nothing to restore. We got nothing for you, kid, so you gotta purchase something. So you say no previous purchases were made. And there you have it. Now we have our alert for restore purchases. So now let's go back up here to this function where we restore our purchases, and let's go ahead and add that function in there. Now with this restore purchases right here, we want to go ahead and cycle through all the products that were restored via this restore purchase and bring back something accordingly. So we say for product in our result dot restored products, then we're going to go ahead and do this in here, in which we say if our lowercase product, that's what we have it right here, dot, and then we say needs finish transaction, then we will go ahead and finish that transaction, and you know how that's already done, so we say Swifty store kit dot finish transaction, and we finish the transaction, and we finish the transaction of our product dot transaction. And then outside of our for statement right here, we want to go ahead and say self dot show alert, and we're going to be showing the proper alert whether or not there were products or not. So we're going to say self dot alert for restored purchases, like so, and then we just go ahead and put in the result that we grabbed right up here. And we are all good to go. Now we have 3 more functions to go. We're almost there, guys. We're almost there. So let's go ahead, continue on. And we want to go ahead and create another alert. And in this case, it's going to be for our alert for verify receipt. And these last few alerts are very simple. We mainly got through the main bulk of it. So now it's just basically making sure that our user knows what's going on. It's very important that they do, otherwise you have a terrible user experience. So let's go ahead and say func the alert for verify receipt. Open parentheses, and inside of here you're gonna go ahead and put your result, colon, and then this is going to be my verify receipt result, like so. Then of course this is an alert controller, so I'm gonna say arrow and say UI alert controller, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Now inside of here we want to go ahead and go through a few of the switch cases that are going on. So we say switch result, so depending on the result that is occurring, we want to go ahead and do some things. So with our first case, we want to say case.success. Everything went smoothly, we're great. So we have the receipt info and everything. So we want to go in here inside of the success and of course say let receipt. So we are creating a new receipt and we're going to be showing that to the user. So we go ahead and say return, and we're going to go ahead and return alert with title. And in this case, if there is success, you just go ahead and say my receipt is verified. And then for a message, we just say receipt verified remotely. And also with our cases right here, you want to make sure that you always have that colon at the end of that. Then after this, we will have another case. So I'm going to have this other case that is in case there's an error. So I'm going to say case error. And inside of here, we're going to go ahead and delete that. And we're going to say let my error, like so. And we're going to be presenting an error accordingly. Now with this, we say colon. And now let's go ahead and present what would happen depending on certain errors. So with our error, we want to go ahead and switch through some cases with this as well. So we're going to go ahead and say switch. And then for our switch value here, we're going to be putting in that error value that we created right there. Our case, we're going to go ahead and put in .no receipt data. And inside of here, we're going to go ahead and tell the user there was no receipt data in this circumstance. So we say return, and then this is going to be my alert with title, and we're going to go ahead and put in the alert with title. Your title, I'm just going to go ahead and put this as receipt verification. And then for a message, I'm just going to simply say no receipt data found. And then with this, we want to reassure them that we will try to get a receipt out to them. Application will try to get a new one. And then we just reassure them that try again. So no receipt data was found, application will try to get a new one, go ahead and try this again, and we'll try to get a receipt out to you. And then finally, with our case down here, we have a default case in the which, there was just no receipt verification and it all failed. So just go ahead and say return alert with title, and this is going to be my receipt verification. And for the message here, we're going to go ahead and say receipt verification failed. And that is it for our alert for verify receipt. So let's just go ahead and make sure that is all looking neat and pretty. Now the next thing we need to do is go up here to the other functions, and with our verify receipt right here, we want to make sure that we are calling that alert that we just created. Now for our verify receipt right here, we're going to go ahead and say self.showAlert, and then with our alert right here, we're going to say self.alert for, and then this is going to be verify receipt. And then with the result that we're going to be entering in is just going to be our result, as you can see. Now in the case that there is an error, that's where we're going to do right now. So we're going to say if case.error, open parentheses, close parentheses, we're going to say let error equal, and then I'm going to go ahead and say result, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. And then if we say if case dot, and then in here, this is going to be no receipt data, and we're going to set this equal to our error as well, lowercase error, and then open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Now inside of here, we're just going to go ahead and say self.refresh receipt, like so. Now what this is going to do is essentially, if there's an error and there's no receipt data, then we're going to go ahead and try to get it again. And that's the whole point of that right there. And that is it for our verify receipt. And now that we have our verify receipt done, the next thing that we need to do is verify a subscription. Now this is actually something that we're going to be doing with verify purchase, but a purchase and a subscription, they're along the same lines. So we're going to create two functions, the alert for verify purchase as well as the alert for verify subscription. So let's go ahead and do that down here. And first off, we'll just start off with the subscription. So I'm going to say func alert for verify subscription. Then just say open parentheses, and then this is going to be a result, colon, and then we're going to have a verify, and then subscription result, like so. And then after this, you just go ahead, arrow, this will be a UI alert controller, and then open curly, close curly. And now inside of here, we're going to go ahead and switch through the results like we've been doing before. So we're going to say switch result, and then this is going to be open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and then inside of here we have a few cases. So we're going to say case dot, and then this is purchased, not purchased, and expired. So we're just going to go ahead and start off with purchased. And then as we've done with all of these, expiry date, instead of actually putting in a date, we're going to create a new variable called let expiry date, like so. And then now we can go ahead and put a colon at the end of that, and we're going to go ahead and return an alert. So we're going to say return an alert, alert with title. And then of course our title is going to be whatever we want it to be. So in this case, it's product is valid until, and then you put the expiry date. So with our alert with title, for the title, we're just going to go ahead and say the product is purchased. Good. And then for our message, we're going to say this purchase is valid until the expiry date given. So this expiry date that we have right here is going to conform to whatever you set as the expiry date. So now with our title right here, I'm just going to go ahead and say product is purchased. And then message, of course, is going to be product will be valid until a certain date. And we are all good to go with that purchase now. So we have product is valid until an expiry date, and we're good to go. Now the next thing we need to do is create a new case. And then of course we have in the case that it's not purchased, then we're going to go ahead and continue on and do this other stuff. So not purchased, colon, and in this case we're going to return alert with title, and then we're going to say product is not purchased. And then finally, with the last one here, your product or your subscription is expired. So we're going to go ahead and say case.expired. And we're going to switch out, of course, the expiry date right here with our own expiry date. Then, of course, add a colon, and we're going to go ahead and return from the alert with title. And here we have it. So when it's expired, you can go ahead and say, oh, your product is expired, and here's the date that it did expire. So that's what we're going to do here. And there you have it. We have our three cases. So with the last case right here, we have product expired and product is expired since, and you have the expiry date in which it did last expire. And there we have it for our subscriptions. Now the next thing we need to do is alert for verify purchase. And it's pretty close to the same lines of this. So we're going to go ahead and say func, and this is going to be alert for verify purchase, open parentheses, and then of course in this one we're going to go ahead and put in a result, colon, and then this is going to be verify purchase result, like so. Then go ahead, arrow, and a UI alert controller. Then of course, just as anything else, we're going to be going through some switch cases. So we're going to say switch through the result right here, open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then we have a few cases. So case dot, and then you have not purchased and purchased. So we're going to go ahead and say purchased, what's going to happen if it is purchased. And in this case, we're going to go ahead and return alert with title. And then your title is just going to be your product is purchased. Product is purchased. And then with your message here, you want to make sure that this is something different than a subscription. So as we set up here with the subscription here, product is valid until so-and-so or so-and-so date. With this one, there's no expiration date. So you can just go ahead and say product will not expire. And just letting the customer know that that's happening. And then lastly, for our second case, if it's not purchased, then we're going to do something else. So case.notPurchased, colon, and in this case, we're going to go ahead, return the alert for with title. And then for our title here, we're just going to go ahead and put in product is not purchased. And then for your message here, you can go ahead and say product has never been purchased. And then lastly, our final function, which goes hand in hand with alert for verify receipt, we have the refresh receipt. So we gotta go ahead and create a new function, and this will be alert for refresh receipt. And then go ahead, open parentheses, close parentheses, and inside of here we have a result, colon. This will be a refresh receipt result. Like so. These are all these things that I'm putting in here. A lot of them were restore results and stuff like that. Those were all pretty generic. They're just things that were actually created inside of that framework, that pod framework that we had. Just in case you were wondering that, essentially what all these variables that we're putting in here are found inside of Swifty store kit. And that's why it makes it really easy to go through all these cases and make sure that everything is being verified properly and things are working good. So now down here inside of our alert for refresh receipt, we're going to go ahead and say result, refresh receipt result, then arrow, as we've done in the past, arrow and UI alert controller. Open curly bracket, close curly bracket, and then inside of here we have the switch case. Switch, we're going to switch the value from the result right here. And you can see that all these variables are enums. If you look inside of Swifty store kit, they're just enums, and that's where all these cases are coming from. So we have switch, result, case, and in this case, we're going to go ahead and say case, there's a success or there's an error. So in this case, well, let's go ahead and start off with the success. Now with this, we have our receipt data. I'm going to go ahead, as we've done in the past, we're going to go ahead and say receipt data and let receipt data, as you can see, I spelt it wrong. And then for our code inside of here, we're going to go ahead and return, you can probably guess it already, an alert with title. So with our alert with title here, we're just going to go ahead and say our receipt refreshed, and we're good to go, essentially. So we go ahead and type that in. Then down here, we can go ahead and delete that default, make sure you have that closed curly bracket, and then we can go ahead and say case dot, and then this is going to be in case there's an error, then we need to go ahead and work with that error. So I'm going to say let error inside of that, and then we are able to work with that. Now also, if you as the developer want to see this stuff, to get that receipt data, if you want to see your receipt data, you just go ahead and say print, and then print out that receipt data that we put in there. I'm not going to be worrying about that much, so I'm going to just leave that blank. But keep in mind that that is how you would make sure that things are working properly. So if you want to put in prints, you can. Now down here, I'm going to go ahead and say return, and again, alert with title. So for our title and our message, this is essentially saying our receipt refresh failed for some weird reason. So I'm going to go ahead and say receipt refresh failed. And make sure you have that colon right after that case. And we are all good to go. So now we have it working so that we have an alert that pops up for every function under the sun. So let's go ahead and implement all of this up here into the rest of our project. And I forgot to do this, but up here with our verify purchase, you want to make sure that it has product, colon, and then we're going to go ahead and put in our registered purchase, like so. And now we can start working with that. So I'm going to go ahead and switch through the results that are going on. So I'm going to go ahead and say result in. You can see that that's happening. Switch result and then open curly bracket, close curly bracket. Then we go ahead and put in some cases. So I'm going to say case dot, and then we have either an error or success. So in the case that there is a success going on with our verifying of a purchase, then we're going to go ahead and do something about that. So with our success right here, we're just going to go ahead, delete what's inside of there, and we're going to say let receipt, like so. So after our case, we're just going to go ahead and put a colon. So now inside of the success case, we want to go ahead and grab the product identifier. So that's going to be com.architect.dollar, then your $10. So we're just going to go ahead and grab that. And we have done this in the past. So we just want to go ahead and say, let my product ID equal, and I'm going to go ahead and set this equal to my bundle ID plus a period, and then plus, and then this is going to be my product dot raw value, like so. So we're just going to grab the product from here, get the raw value of that, and apply that to our product ID. Now with this, if there's success in this, getting our product ID, we want to go ahead and say, let my purchase result dot verify subscription. And it looks like we're getting an error up here because what we need to add is self.bundle ID. So we're saying self.bundle ID because we just need to reference it from the view controller itself because we are using switch statements. So now that we have all of that done, we have all of our alerts done, let's go ahead and set it up with the rest of our project. Now we need to go ahead and verify our purchase. So the way that we do this is with our verifying our purchase, there's two real ways of doing this. So there's a different setup for an auto renewable purchase, and then there's also a different setup for just any other purchase other than that auto renewable. So we just need to keep in mind that there is a difference between auto renewable purchases and the consumable purchases and how you deal with verifying them. So what we're going to do here is we're going to add a switch statement that switches through the results that are coming in. So we're going to say switch result. And then inside of here, we're going to say in the case that there is dot success, then we're going to do this stuff in here. Now with this, we want to go ahead and create a new receipt. So I'm going to say let receipt colon, and then after this, this is where we're going to start adding things. So with this, we want to go ahead and grab the product identifier for the product that we just purchased. So the way that we do this is we just say let our product ID equal, and we've done this before, so it's essentially grabbing your bundle ID, adding a period, and then just grabbing that purchase.raw value. So we can actually copy that and just paste it down there, and we should be good to go. The only thing that's different is because we put this inside of a switch statement, we want to go ahead and say self.bundle ID, and we should be good to go. And this is not purchase.raw value, this is our product.raw value. Now this is where the difference between the auto-renewable subscription and the rest of the subscriptions come from. We say if our product is equal to, and then you can say dot, and then what this is doing is you have a registered purchase and you can be comparing purchases accordingly. So with this you have registered purchase $10 or remove ads. Now if you have an auto-renewable purchase in there, so I'm just going to go ahead and add this right now. Let's go up here to our registered purchases up here, create a new case. This is going to be our auto-renewable, and I'm going to set this equal to, and I'm just going to put in a pretty generic sounding thing, so this is just going to be auto-renewable. But if you have an auto-renewable subscription that is actually set up inside of your product, that's what you would put in there. So going back to our product right here, we say if our product is equal to dot, now we should be able to grab that auto-renewable. Now, if it is an auto-renewable, this is how we handle that. So we want to go ahead and say, let my purchase result equal, and I'm going to go ahead and set this equal to a Swifty store kit dot, and then this is going to be verify subscription, and you want this one that says in receipt valid until valid duration. So with our product ID right here, this is just going to get, we're going to get that product ID that we created earlier. Then we have for our receipt right here, we created a receipt earlier as well, so we're going to go ahead and put that in there as well. Valid until, and this is where we're just going to go ahead and put in date, open close parentheses like so, and then we can just go ahead and delete that valid duration at the end of that, as that is already handled with whatever auto renewable purchase we're working with. Then after this, we just want to go ahead and show an alert, so I'm going to say self.show alert, and this is going to be self.alert verify subscription right there. Now when we're verifying a subscription, we want to go ahead and give it feed it the result as well. So our result that we're feeding it is our purchase result that we're giving it. So we're just putting this variable right into there. And Swifty StoreKit is already going to go ahead and handle verifying that subscription for us. And we're just showing the alert to the user that their subscription has been verified. Now again, everything else other than auto renewable is handled pretty much the same way. So we can just go ahead and say else, open curly bracket, and then we can go ahead and say let my purchase result equal Swifty StoreKit dot, and then this is going to be verify subscription, and inside of here we just have the product ID and the in receipt. So with our product ID right here, this is going to be of course our product ID, and then for our receipt, as we did earlier, we already created that receipt, so we're doing the same there. Now down here we can say self.show alert, and then with this alert we're going to say self.alert for verify purchase, and then in here we can just go ahead and put in our purchase result. And I messed up here. We have Swifty StoreKit.verify subscription. This should be .verify purchase. Messed that up, but it is the two exact same variables, so you don't need to worry about that. Now finally, we need to work with the other case. So this is just working with success. Now we need to go ahead and deal with failure. So I'm going to say case dot there is an error. So in case there is an error, then we're going to be working with that. We need to go ahead and create a new variable. So I'm going to go ahead and say let error right inside of there, open curly bracket, close curly bracket, then just put a colon after that. And now we want to go ahead and deal with that error coming in. So we're just going to go ahead and say self.show alert, and we're going to go ahead and say self.alert for verify receipt. And then for the result right here, we're going to go ahead and put in our result of the alert. Then also, this is dealing with, okay, you can show this alert if there is a receipt. But the problem with that is we also need to determine what if there is no receipt. So we got to go ahead and say if case dot no receipt data equals error, then we can go ahead and do this stuff in here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and say self dot refresh receipt, and we're just doing our best to try and grab that receipt and try to get it to the user. And that is it for our verify purchase. Now finally we need to go down here to our refresh receipt, and inside of here and with the results we want to go ahead and say self dot show alert, and we're going to go ahead and show alert self dot alert for refresh receipt. Self.alert for refresh receipt. So there we have it, recipient. There you have it, receipt. Okay, now inside of our results right here, we want to go ahead and put in the result that we are given from this refresh receipt. So basically, if we go back up here, if the case that there is no receipt data, then we're calling this function here and we're showing an alert accordingly. And now finally that we have everything done, now we can go ahead and apply to our buttons. When we click on a button, it's going to go ahead and purchase $10. And it's really simple how you implement this now. So with our consumable one, we're going to go ahead and put in purchase, and then we're going to go ahead and put in the purchase that we want to purchase. So in this case, we're going to go ahead and purchase, as we created up here at the beginning of this, we have two variables, $10 and remove ads. So with our first consumable one, I'm going to go ahead and put in $10. And then for our consumable 2, I'm going to go ahead and put in remove ads. So now we can go ahead and say purchase and then remove ads, like so. And now if we were to build and run this on my iPhone, we should be able to test it with a sandbox user. Now for those who don't know how to create a sandbox user, it's very simple. You just go over here to Safari, go over here to iTunes Connect, go to iTunes Connect, the main part of it. Go over here to your users and roles. And inside of here, you can see that you have sandbox testers. So you just go ahead, create a new one, and enter your name, last name, email. This is all emails and stuff that aren't actually used with any Apple IDs. So this is just any random email. It could be anything you want. Just blah blah at soandso.com. It could be anything really, but it's something that you log into on your device when you are ready to use. And I'll show you how to log into it on your device in just a second. So I already have all of my sandbox testers created. It's not a very complicated process, but getting it working on your iPhone is another story. So the way that we do this is I'm typically logged in on my personal account. So I'm going to go ahead and log out of that. All right, so here we are on our iPhone. So the way that we're going to fix this is just go over here to Settings, go down here to iTunes and App Store, click on your Apple ID, and sign out. Now with this, you go ahead, sign out, and make sure that you're signed out on iCloud as well. Now we want to go back over here, and let's go ahead and build and run our project. Now I got an error. That's just because I said purchase, and then this is just going to be remove ads. I didn't have that purchase there, and it just put remove ads, and that was wrong. So now go ahead, build and run this, and we should have absolutely no errors going on in our project, which is a miracle. I'll tell you what. So now if we build and run this on our application, you will be able to see that if we click on consumable 1, it'll buy $10, and if we click on consumable 2, it'll buy remove ads. Now also with any of these other functions, if you're trying to restore purchases that you have in the past, go ahead and add a button that does that. Or if you're trying to verify a receipt or do any of this stuff, all of this stuff that we programmed, it really is there to help you, because it's a lot of things that you do need to add inside of your application, but it's not something that's crucial that I need to show you how to do in your application. All you really need to do is add that function into whatever you're trying to do. So verify that receipt, go ahead, add a button that says verify receipt. Also with any of these other functions, just go ahead and use it however you feel is best inside of your application. Purchase is the main one that I believe most people are going to do, so I'm going to be using that. But let's go ahead and try purchasing our first thing. So we have $10, and we're going to go ahead and say consumable 1. So as you can see, there's a spinning icon right at the top there. Let's go ahead and say use existing Apple ID, and you're going to go ahead and sign in as a sandbox tester. So I'm going to go ahead and do that password. And then once you have purchased it, as you can see, it says confirm your in-app purchase. Do you want to buy $10 for 99 cents? That is something that is pulled from, if we go back into our developer if we go into iTunes Connect, let's go ahead and check out that purchase and make sure that our descriptions are matching up. So let's go over here to my apps. Then as you can see in our description right there, you can say, do you want to buy $10 for $0.99? That is the display name right here. And if you want to get the description, you can do that as well. But essentially, this is it right now. Let's go ahead and purchase it. You're all set. The purchase was successful. Okay, thank you. Purchase completed. Awesome. Now, the next thing that we need to do is, when we do purchase something, we actually want that money. So I'm going to go ahead and add something that adds that money into our bank account. Now, of course, with your sandbox testers, none of that money is actually being taken from you, so no worries about that. So as you can see right down here, we have if case.success. In the case that there is success with buying something, this is where you're going to be adding whether or not you add $10 or remove ads or something like that. This is where you would say if my product dot, and then we can go ahead and get my product ID from the product that we have success with. And then we can go ahead and say if this is equal to the product that we're trying to buy. So with this, we want to go ahead and test it right now. Let's go ahead and test it with our $10. So we're going to go ahead and say bundle ID plus, and then of course the period, plus, and then let's just go ahead and put in $10. Or you can also work with the enum values above. I'm going to go ahead and put $10, and we should be able to say self.bundleID is looking like what we need to do. Now, if the product.product ID is equivalent to that bundle ID that we have for our dollar, now this is where you would add stuff to the money. Now, one thing to keep in mind here is I'm going to be easily saying money plus equals 10. But with you, what you want to do is make sure that that money that you just bought stays in the background as well when you exit out of the application. If we exit out of the application right now with just money plus 10, it's going to go ahead and remove that purchase once we've done that. So you don't want to get angry customers, so you want to make sure that you either save it in NS user defaults, which I don't think is the best way with purchases. You can store it up in the iCloud or other things like that. Now we can go ahead and say money plus equals 10, but it looks like one thing that we need to do is change our money function here. So I'm going to say var money will be equal to, and then I'm going to just say integer open close parentheses. And now we should be able to say money plus equals 10. And we actually need to say self.money plus equals 10, and we're good to go. Now with the other purchase, you would also do the exact same thing. So if my product.product ID is equivalent to remove ads, then I would deal with that accordingly as well. So I got the question earlier of how do you not display ads when it is purchased versus how do you display ads when it is purchased. Basically the way that I would deal with that is I would have a bool statement that says if purchased, then this, else not purchased, then this. So if it is purchased, then you're going to go ahead and set up your ads accordingly and your screen size accordingly with those ads. But if the ads aren't purchased, then you're just going to go ahead and deal with the screen being normal as without ads. That was just a question I had, and that's how you would deal with it. And if you were to deal with it, this is where you would set that bool statement. And again, you want to save that bool statement in the user defaults or on the cloud. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So let's go ahead and build and run this again and see if we get some money added onto our project. You're all set. The purchase was successful, and we should be able to see that money that's coming in. But the problem is it looks like I'm not able to display that. So let me go ahead and fix that. So we want to go ahead and say self.label, money label, will be equal to, and then it's slash open close parentheses, and I'm going to go ahead and put in my money so that it displays the amount of money that's in my bank. And I'm also going to go ahead and copy that. And this is actually self.moneylabel.text. Sorry about that. So self.moneylabel.text will be equal to the amount of money that I would feel like putting in there. And this is self.money as well. Now I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And I'm also going to put it up here inside of my view did load. So just go into my view did load right up here and make sure that's displaying the amount of money I have as well. So now let's go ahead and build and run this. And now with this, we should be able to go ahead. It was all complete. Your purchase was successful. Go ahead and say thank you. And didn't change the label. Why didn't you change the label? And obviously I messed up the bundle identifier right here. So it is actually $10 if you don't remember that. Like I don't. Now we go ahead and build and run this, and it should work properly that if we do purchase it, it adds money into our bank account. Now I'm also going to show you in just a second of how the non-consumable is dealt with as well. So let's go ahead and click on consumable 1, and boom, it buys it. As you can see, our money has increased and our purchase was successful. It says thank you, awesome. So now we have that all working. Now the next thing that I want to work with is the non-consumable. So what the way we work with this is I'm going to go ahead and say if my product ID is equal to my self.bundle ID, I'm going to go ahead and grab all that plus, and then we go ahead and put a period, plus, and then I'm going to go ahead and put in my remove ads. And I'm making sure that it is spelt the same. So remove ads, and then I'm going to go ahead and open curly bracket, close curly bracket like so. And then inside of here, we're going to be dealing with money in a different way. So I'm going to go ahead and say self.money plus equals 100 if this is true and the purchase was successful, like so. And we're also going to change the text label. Let's go ahead, build and run this. But what you'll see is since it is non-consumable, it will return, oh, you've already bought this. So let's see if this works. So here we have it. Click on consumable 2. It's going to go ahead and purchase that. Purchase it for $3. Awesome. Yeah. Fake money for $3. Awesome. Awesome. It purchased it. We're good to go. Now let's go ahead and try buying consumable 2 again. Now, as you can see, when it buys it, you've already purchased this. Would you like to get it again for free? And you can say okay or cancel. If you say okay, then you can get it again. There's different things to this as well. Yeah, so that's definitely a sandbox thing. So if you're in the sandbox, it's going to let you buy non-consumable items over and over again. But so just keep that in mind. And then of course with renewable and non-renewable purchases, all you have to do is set one up inside of iTunes Connect, do that all properly, and you should be all good to go. Anyway, that is it for this tutorial. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. This is like my longest tutorial I've ever done, and hopefully it got you started in the right direction of making money with your applications. Anyway, there you guys have it. This was a hugely requested video of mine, so I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to hit that like button down below. But seriously, thank you all so much for the support in 2016. It's been an awesome year. Happy New Year, and I will see you guys in 2017. Bye.